where we talk about all things life, love, and bullshit. Today, we're here talking to my homegirl, my cousin, my longest friend, long-time friend in the entire world, Tiffany, which I call TT, TT Loco, Poncho.
Right.
We have known each other, I was 7, so you were 6?
Mm-hmm.
From the Ave, 5th Ave, 5th and 48th, in the 90s, okay? No, that was not the 90s, that was the 80s. So yes, my longest relationship. So I would say that she knows the most about me. And we're discovering now more than ever that there's a lot of things that she doesn't even know about me. And I think that's just a part of, when you've experienced trauma, you pack things away in order to survive. And I have done that in my life. And so I'm at this place right now of continued growth and healing. And it's definitely a journey. And so each day, week, month, year, it's like pouring out. It's pouring out. And it's all for the good, but it's not comfortable. Right?
Right.
So, all right. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Just a young lady. Young lady out here trying to make it. I am mommy. And in mommy with a young lady who is about to embark upon life for herself, trying to rediscover and find me again. So, yeah, all I know is mommy right now.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Yeah, I can vouch for that.
So,
totally dedicated her whole life to being a mom. That's it.
That's it.
Mm-hmm. Tell me about your childhood. How was your childhood?
I had a wonderful childhood. I was raised by my mother, single mom, but grew up in the household with my grandmother. And I didn't know anything about our
Panamanian grandmother.
Mm-hmm. Caribbean grandmother. I didn't know about financials, anything. I was just around love, women in love, and grew up on a block where it was family oriented. So the family or the siblings that I didn't have were there on the block. The additional mothers and fathers that I didn't have were on the block. And so I have not one complaint about a childhood. I don't feel like it was lackluster or that I missed out on anything. Not even having a father in my life. Mm-hmm. Like, I didn't feel like I missed out on that. Now, growing up and as you get older and you having certain situations with relationships, mm-hmm. then you feel that. Like, I felt the absence, mm-hmm. because I didn't know how to be treated by a man, mm-hmm. intimately. That's not to say that I accepted disrespect, but yeah, I didn't know what that was like.
She is a fellow sad.
Like, I didn't know what that was like. So, going through hiccups, mm-hmm. in relationships because of that, but accepting it all for the lesson that it could teach me. But childhood was running up and down the street, in the middle of the street with no socks on, and playing games had to be inventive because we didn't have all the luxury of technology. So I loved it. Still go back, even though it doesn't look the same, but but that nostalgic feeling. But I absolutely, when I sit back and think about it now, like, I love it. And seeing my mom independent of a woman as she is who I am today. And she made sure I had whatever I wanted, and I didn't want much. Like, what you see is what you get. I'm the laid back, comfortable, don't want much but some sneakers. Like, that's me. I'm a tennis shoe girl. But, like, that's it. And I got it. And because it was only she and I, there was huge trust. I had a lot of freedom, but there was trust there.
Wasn't
So
about that bush.
Nope. Nope. So I love it, and it's what I strive to give to my daughter.
I didn't have a lot of those kind of moments of childhood, but I did have those on the app.
Yeah,
I definitely had those on the app. So my uncle lived 2 doors down from her, and I ended up living with him and his wife when I was 13, going to Audubon, and so anytime, I think on Sundays or whenever we would go over there, I gravitated right over there, or we would meet outside or whatever, and we just played the whole time until it got dark, and that was a good memory of that type of wonder years. Yeah, I'm grateful for that. And then sleepovers, because I didn't get to sleep over anywhere but her house, and we had so much fun.
I just think about when we used to do our commercials, right? And so just the nature of innocence and laughter, like we laughed so much.
We would take any item in the house and just present it and do a whole commercial for it. I remember that. It was so fun and funny. It was so fun and funny. And later on, when I ended up living there on the street, the situation kind of changed for me because I was being abused by my uncle's wife. I don't even think I told you all of that, but she tried to drive a wedge between she and I because she was, and it was so crazy because she literally spread the rumor that she was a bad influence on me. I was like, girl, little do you know. But it was so funny because it was a lot going on in that house. The wife had a daycare, and so she forced me to work in the daycare. And so I got out of school at Audubon at 3 o'clock or 3:08 or something. I had to be home at 3:30 or I got beat. So a lot of days I had to run home. And that was back in the day when we would go to Heights or A1 and chill, and everybody, chill after. I couldn't do none of that because I had to run bone out or I was getting beat with a razor strap.
Yeah,
that part. Yeah, you didn't know all of that. But full circle, right? It's like all of these things that I just held in, and I'm not sure why I did, but I think I just craved that innocence. I just wanted that. Because it was so many times that I knew I was supposed to have that, but it wasn't my reality. And so even then, I just tried to push the positivity in.
Do you think it could have been like for the image and the persona that they had? It was church going.
Oh, yeah,
do you think that
churchy.
That they would believe you that certain abuse was going on because of who they were?
No, but then also, who would I tell?
Right.
True. Who would I tell?
That's true.
And then later on in life, I find out that a lot of the scenarios or houses I was put in was not for my good. It was for my detriment. And so it's like,
convenience.
It's all of that, right? So then it's like, no, I don't believe that people would have believed that because yes, they were very, very churchy. So the whole way. So I don't know if you know this, that me and my mom and my siblings, we never ever went to church until I was 7, and my uncle started dating Zana. Zana's mother was the pastor. She had a church in her house. And so I guess my uncle must have invited my mom and us to come to church in her living room. And so now we're churchy.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah, I did.
And then a little while later, they end up getting married. So that's why we ended up spending so much time, because that was the church that you go to at 8 o'clock in the morning, and we would be there until 11 o'clock at night. We would break for food and gossip, but then it was always church. And then you grow up and then you find out who these people really are. Yeah. And you're like... So me and my homegirl Sean, we were kind of touching on that, like church hurt. I'm going to probably have a whole episode about that, because that's real too. It's like knowing the background of these people, these churches, and it's really just a business. Sure. It's a hustle, right? Because these people are just like you and I, and a lot of times they're way fucking worse. But anyway.
I digress.
So, tell me about... First of all, let me touch on the topic of today. The topic of today is the audacity. And so I think that touches on the audacity that can be about life, love, and bullshit. Mm-hmm. So let's first start with the audacity of life. What's the most memorable or notable moment in your life where you're like, what the the audacity, like, this is real? When did it hit you like, oh yeah, this is real, this thing called life? Is it motherhood or responsibilities? Or
see, mine was the responsibility part. I think I was kind of eased into that, right? So I worked from 16 because I didn't want to depend upon my mother. She was already doing enough. So, and I wanted to have my own money without having to constantly go to her. So in doing that, I wasn't really responsible for much. Did they buy? Yeah, I had my own little Nissan Sentra, right? Okay. And then little Nissan Sentra, and I'm trying to think, like, was I responsible for paying for my insurance at the time, or just maintaining, my gas, my whatever for the car? So that was an ease into responsibility. Then when I wanted more shit, I had to do more to get it. So that showed me more responsibility. I think the audacity of life for me probably came like with my first heartbreak, because you feel like, the fuck, like you did that to me, right? So not responsibility, because I don't ever think that I saw it. I saw what a responsible woman looked like, so it was easy for me to fall into that. But the protectiveness of my mom was, she didn't have like a lot of different relationships and men around me. So even if she did have suffered from heartbreak, she did that in silence. Like, I didn't see it. So then when I experienced it for myself, like that shit,
did you guys have
happened?
Conversations about relationships before you were in them?
Not really, because she didn't have people around me. That's not to say that I didn't know if she had a boyfriend or she had a relationship, but it wasn't in my face.
I can attest to that.
I didn't see it. So, and she's a bad one, so we know she had. she had that one.
It's so funny. She reminds me of Miss Parker from Friday.
Absolutely,
like stacked outside in the garden.
In the garden, Miss Green.
Yes, that's her.
So I think that because it was my own interpretation of my feelings and dealing with them, and I'm a good person, so that shit could happen to me, and I'm good. Like, I strive to be a good person, but you just hurt my feelings, my whole ass feelings. And like Sag, we this exterior, don't get it fucked up. Like, the interior is too but we a little sensitive.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like, we have feelings. Like, we have feelings.
It's the best of both worlds.
Yeah. So that, I think the audacity for me was like, damn, like that shit can happen to me. Like, we're not in the rural South where we deal with racism or something where you would feel like, damn, how do... No, so my feelings, yeah, hell yeah. Hell yeah.
And then it was that part of being on the block too was the older guys' camaraderie and brotherhood.
Like, what the fuck? What are you crying for? Like, who hurt your feelings? Don't you know who you are? Like,
yes,
building you up.
That.
So you accepted what? Because he did. On to the next. What you mean? Yeah. Like, no, but I love him. Like, no, we don't deal with that. So yeah, that was.
So how do you think that first realization of this the audacity of life and love, because that's both, how do you think that changed or molded your perspective in life and love?
Oh, well.
Do you think it hit you then?
Oh, or? No. Nope. It's a lot more banging of the head and clenching of the pearls and of the heart. Oh, shit. It wasn't until I think I understood me. Like, you teenage, even young 20, you don't know who you are.
So when do you think that was? When you got to know who you were?
Honestly, I want to say like in my 30s. Like, to know who I am, to understand my worth, to be able to speak to what I can, will not accept, even though with that realization, like, I might have spent the block a couple of times in that shit, but it was, at that point, it was kind of like I knew better. So if something was to happen out of that, I'd be like, bitch, well, yeah. But in the teens and early 20 parts, you just like, but me. Like I said, once again, the audacity is like, but me. But okay, so maybe that's just them. But then you start to learn and understand that somebody is only going to treat you how you allow them to. So then that's when you have to start building yourself up so that somebody can already identify, like, I can't come to her with no bullshit. And that.
So I wonder if those factors of having those strong women, not having men around in your household, all of those things governed that part of getting to know who you are, and good and bad, right? Like boundaries.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. I agree. And sometimes you don't know, like, after a while of my dad not being around growing up, like, shit, I wonder if him being around would have been a benefit or the hindrance for, or a hindrance. So it's just like the unknown, right? So I don't know, because you don't know the type of person they are.
Exactly.
And the attributes that they can have or feed into you or not. And so sometimes you have people that are there who are absent.
Definitely that. And that can have a horrible effect on you as well.
Exactly.
Or the mistreatment of your parent, your other parent, the one who's actually doing the work, you know?
Yeah.
All of that.
All of it.
So, what about that bullshit? The audacity.
What about the bullshit?
The biggest. The biggest notable moment of that to date.
Like, when did
the biggest notable moment of that bullshit, like, this is some bullshit, or is it all intertwined? It's all life, love, and bullshit all together.
I think for me, more of my audacity came with love. Like lives, right?
Life.
And I think I've done a nice job maneuvering through life, even with its bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
I think my biggest audacities have come with matters of the heart. And more so, after letting like walls down, right? So with not having my dad around, I had like this huge blockade around my heart, like a huge fort that I created for my heart. And because I never had my dad's love, like I had uncles and godparents and fathers or whatever who loved me, like genuinely loved me, but it's not the same as having your parent. Absolutely, right? Not. So there was all like, oh, I'm not gonna let nobody hurt me like I felt with the lack of not having my dad around, right? And then you find somebody and like, oh, and you feel I'll get in there, and them fucking walls
weaseled in there.
The walls start falling and coming down. And then that's when you start getting these fucking daggers. But you can't really experience, I think, real, genuine, honest love with having a wall up. So
it's the ultimate catch-22.
Yes. Yeah, like you want to feel this. I want to feel this genuineness, and I just want to be floating on the clouds and doing all this kind of shit. But with that,
and you have to be
with that vulnerability comes the opportunity for hurt. But having those walls up, you don't allow anybody to come in to feel that shit. So it's kind of like the audacity on both. Like the audacity, like, bitch, you let your walls down, and then this shit happened.
Yeah. So then, does it make you want to retreat?
It does. But then knowing, having the wisdom of you're not going to get that full on euphoric experience if you keep these walls up.
Yeah.
It's not gonna happen. Ugh.
Exactly that.
Ugh. So then you start thinking about, okay, who you are, how you present yourself, and then the type of partner that you get. Because when we're younger, like the partner that we want is not the partner that we need.
Absolutely not.
Right?
And then there was like like the thrill too.
Yeah.
The thrill of dealing with somebody you knew you had no business dealing with. For whatever the case, whether it was like my parents would not approve, or he's a bad boy, or he looked like he'd be fucking everybody. Right? It's like you don't know until you know. Perspective can change everything.
Well, you think about it now, right? So like in this day and age of social media, some people want the guy or the mate, the girl, the whomever that's known, that's popular. But with all of that comes the bullshit, right?
Mm-hmm.
So even in high school or growing up, it was still the same.
Or the doctor.
It's
or
still
the lawyer,
the same.
Right? Like you think that there is something great about having that one. But
the title of it all, right? And they just as empty
just
inside.
Almost spoken tongues.
Just like so.
Right?
The fucking audacity.
And then it just feels like a big fucking game that I don't want to be a part of. But then it's like, you got to play the game.
Oh, see, and that's, for me, that's it. Like, this whole game shit, I'm not for it because, especially, okay, back, not to say how old I am, but like back
in the day, it was different.
Even if you had to do a little fucking Pac-Man with your shit, right? Okay, that's something. But now, in this grown, mature age and stage where I'm at, I don't want to have to do nope, got a number, can't call.
Yes.
Like, you responded to the text too quick. What are we doing here? That's game. I don't, do you like me, nigga? Check, let's go back to the simplicity of it.
Do you want to be my boyfriend?
Check yes or no.
Maybe. But
take out the maybe.
Take out the maybe.
Like,
that's probably what happened. When did the maybe come?
Giving motherfuckers options. Like, too many. Yes or no. And then how do we move again? How do we move? And let's move forward with this. I don't want to do...
Or leave me alone.
Just come with it. I think honesty can help with some of this audacity.
And accountability.
Yes.
That's the whole part. Like, people want what they want when they want it, but they don't want to be held accountable for that. It's like, that sounds like a you problem.
Yeah. Like, most of it is.
If it happens, it happens. And you have to be real with that. That's what happened.
And accept that however I choose to deal with it, if I'm the one who you fucking with, however I choose to deal with it, it's how I choose to deal with it.
Mm-hmm. And you have to be strong enough in yourself to allow people to choose their own destiny. Do what you want to do with your life. I can't make you do what I want you to do. Of course, I wish, like, it would be easy, right? If you could just be like, write your list of manifestations and it actually just be just that right there, right? But that's not reality because there's free will. And with that, you have to allow people to have their free will, because then that's when you know what they would rather do.
Yes.
And then you have to hold yourself accountable to that part. Like, okay, so does that work for you or does it not?
Mm-hmm. And it makes it easier for every movement that you do from that point moving forward. Because then I have to constantly tell you how to move instead of you just organically moving.
And I don't want to do that. I've never been that type to tell you how to kiss me, how to hold me, how to
show you how to kiss me.
I'm not gonna say it. Like, if you don't, you ain't gonna let me make it to the next kiss. Like, I don't want to tell you how to do that. Yeah. And then it's part of that. It's like, maybe that's a part of my toxicity of being sexually, whatever. It's like the toxicity of people who have been misappropriated tend to be more judged in that arena, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's like, you should know. And maybe that's like a bad thing, but it's like, you should know what to do. And if you don't know what to do, I don't know if I'm necessarily the one who's going to teach you or whatever, because to me, in my mind, now it's fake.
If you have to tell them?
If I have to tell them what to do. Now it's not, it doesn't come naturally. Now I'm trying to mold something that is not supposed to be here.
But with, let's just say, intimate dealings, it's subjective, right? Per person. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So what you can do with A, you can't do with B. They're not going to receive it. Some people just ain't about that life or whatever. So you feel like if you have to tell someone on an intimate level how to interact with you, it's disingenuous.
I think it's not meant for me.
Okay. I would think it just goes back to the A and B of it all, of just opening someone's process of how to...
See, I could say that works in terms of letting people know what I expect or would like in terms of like the relationship, like what actions are okay or not. Yes, because that's, then like you're giving people the blueprints on how to deal with you, right? So, but I don't know, it might be my toxicity is like, I don't want to do it when it's sexual. I don't want to do it. Like, it's either a yes or a no. And then it might be too because I've experienced a spiritual love affair. You know what I mean? So now it's hard to go back to what I knew before.
And it was just on some unspoken.
Yeah. That unspoken, everything makes the ground shake. Like, that I've experienced that now. So it's hard for me to go back to, okay, well, this is what I like. This is what, I think I was probably doing that when I was a teenager. And I didn't like it
you like without telling, without saying.
I think follow my lead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you do that?
I guess sometimes. I think I'm a teacher anyway, though. So I tend to expose people to a lot of things that they have never experienced. Yeah, but I think in that aspect, it's just like, it's always annoyed me when somebody doesn't hit the right spot. It's like,
you didn't hit your mark.
It's like, what are we doing here?
So let me flip this to you. What was your first realization with the audacity of someone, or the audacity that someone had and had you kind of fucked up?
My entire life. I think that's what's made me somewhat jaded and hard to trust and hard to open up, is because so many times I've looked at life, I've looked at love, the game of it all, in all interpersonal relationships, and been like, this is some bullshit. This is really some bullshit. And so it made me retreat into myself, and that's my ultimate relationship is within. So that's probably why I'm so self-aware and so like self-check, like everything. Like it's just like a constant conversation within myself because I lack trust for anybody outside of me.
But you are, in knowing you, you love, and you still love, and you continue to love. So how?
I don't know where that comes from. Maybe only because I want it to be reciprocated. I want all the love that I feel inside bubbling up to be reciprocated. I want it, so therefore I give it. But I have not received it the way that I give it. Ever.
I always say you can't expect you from other people, right? So that's not to say that people can't match on their own levels certain intensities or interactions, but the exact way that you give something, you will never be able to receive from somebody else.
Or even on a consistent basis, because I know what love is. I know what it's supposed to look like, feel like, sound like. I know it, right? But then it's like on a consistent basis. So I think I tell myself that there's still work to do on me. If I haven't gotten the full package yet, then that just means there's more work to do on me. I always turn it back to me. It has to be something that I have to do.
But aren't we continuous works in progress?
We all are.
So will we ever come to that place? Like to say that you haven't received it yet because there's still work to be done on you. But if we're constantly working on ourselves,
so then there's a thing called shadow beliefs, right?
Okay. There's
this thing called shadow beliefs that speaks on like the negative things that your ego that you tell yourself that may not ever be true, right? But then there's these things that pop up, like the angel, the devil, right? Mm-hmm. It's like those things that pop up to maybe when you look at your pattern or how things have played out, it's like, maybe you don't deserve that. Or maybe you don't, maybe, it's just these things. And it's like, in the forefront of my mind, I know that that's not true because I deserve everything that I give. I deserve it. I'm a great fucking person. You know what I mean? So it's like, I know that I deserve all of those things. But the shadow beliefs come from when things happened to me before I had any responsibility in the matter.
Okay.
Right? So a lot of the bad things that happened way before I was an adult. I was very much a child. So I don't know if that's ever going to go away. If those feelings are ever going to go away, like the fullness of it. You know what I mean? The all encompassing what, you know what I mean? Like that thing that we strive for. It's always, although I strive for that every day, I do the work that needs to be done. I show up. I have an open heart every day. I can't do the other person's work, right? I can only allow. And then it's like right now too, in doing all this healing work and stuff, I'm like, I have to have very strong boundaries. And in doing that, you sometimes have to shut off relationships that you might get this much satisfaction from, or, you know, this much or this much, you know what I mean? That all plays into who you are and who, you know what I mean? Like it all matters, but then it's like, I can't go any further with this. So I have to let it go because I see that you aren't seeing me for who I am and show up for, you know, how I show up for you. And it's not fair. So I have to shut you off.
Which is hard. Which is hard. Which is really hard. Some easier than others, but oh yeah.
So then we go back to that true faith, right? Ultimately, in all of that, and the audacity of it all, it's like having true faith that it's all going to work out the way it's supposed to work out. And we cannot control it. Although, we be trying to control it. We be wanting to control it. We want to control it. But then it's like, is ignorance really that bliss, right? Because it's like, if you don't know any better and you just out here, you know what I mean? Like, okay, because I can say this, right? The people that I know who are like damn near idiots, one, are very controlling and trying to set up their scenario the way that they want to, scamming like a mug. Those people, it looks like from the outside looking in, like they winning, like they got it. Yeah. Internally, they might not have shit.
Absolutely not.
But it just appears that they have it. But then it's like integrity, right? How you sleep at night. You know? I don't want to do, like, I can't do that shit. I can't. Like, I can't do it. But then, the old me, and I don't even think, maybe, like, the old me, I be wanting to play the game sometime.
Yeah, well. That's too much energy.
It is too much.
That's too much energy.
So, it's easy to just stop it.
Yeah. I can't.
Because ultimately, people don't do what they want to do.
Regardless of how you feel about it.
No matter what you try to do, whatever you try to say. But look at me. Look what I'm trying to give you. Like, can you see? You see this package? It doesn't fucking matter because it's about the other person and all of their shit, all of their qualms and all of their, you know, childhood trauma and all of those things. That is going to show up for them a whole nother way, and you can't always put your finger on it
because it's some processing
going to make them tick.
They too need to do as well.
That's their job,
and you can't heal for them.
Ooh, I've been guilty of that, and I see it so clearly. It's like I tend to. Some people, these are my truths. I know I'm a judger. I'm a judge. I'm very fucking judgmental. And I might not never say anything, but because I'm a watcher, right? I sit back and I watch. I do my research. I'm 007, right? So I watch But then it's so, we were talking about this before. It's like, I care about what I care about, but everything else I don't fucking get. Like, I cannot even I can't piece together a piece of care. I can't. But it's like certain things, it's like full deep dive. I know every aspect of every freaking part of that. What I choose to do with that is a whole nother thing. But
just sit
it's
on
like,
it.
ooh, I might sit. And look, maybe you should sit on some of that information that you get sometimes. It's not, you shouldn't just jump on that shit, right? Automatically.
Right.
Gather your information, put it in your pocket, hold on to it, because you know you might get better information. Just wait.
But it all comes together and makes sense.
Yes.
2 + 2 might equal 4.
Ooh.
Right. Okay.
Right? But it's like sometimes, and that's ego, right? Sometimes I be wanting to play the petty game. Like sometimes I want to reveal my hand and be like, ooh. And then I like the psychological warfare of it. Yes. Is that a Sag thing?
Let's play the game.
Ooh. Like you want to push me? Let's play it. Sometimes I want to, but then it's still too like, girl, that is too much. Like, stop. Because, and then that's ego too. It's like, I'm not that fucking weak to show you that much emotion when
that I care.
That I care. Yeah, to play the fucking game with you.
I'm not about to give you that
satisfaction or that upper hand.
Because you're sitting home with your mind racing and wondering. And I don't care enough. But don't get it twisted.
Ooh,
if I want to go in this back pocket of mine and pull out any cards, ooh, I have them.
It's so many cards.
I have them. Ooh. And I can show you.
Yeah.
I don't have to hit you with my ace of spades. I might give you a 2 of hearts real quick. Just to let you know I see you.
I see you.
Yeah, I think that's a
Is it a sad thing? I don't know. Because I know some other Sagittarius who are totally opposite of that. Maybe because they're closer to Scorpio.
Or maybe they have a different rise in the moon.
Right?
The moon or whatever. But
because I have 5 placements of Virgo, so I'm very much Virgo, right? And so that's like the planner, the stand strong in my belief type, you know what I mean? It's like that, but then I have so much of the adventurer of the Sag. That Sag adventure and creativity, but I think that investigative nature has to be us.
Yeah, because we're thinkers. We seek the thinking. We like learning. We like knowledge. Yes. So even if that's comes in some that investigative stuff, like, and don't get it twisted, like we have the arrow. So whatever we aim, information, anything we want to acquire, we're going
logistics.
We will get it. Like, yeah, good, bad, or indifferent. Yeah, might not be good for us, but I wanted it at the time.
Yeah, because sometimes,
I wanted it at the time.
I needed it right now. Yeah. So yeah, it's that part, right? Because we did touch on that a little bit earlier about, how we used to play that part back in the day. It's like certain things. Yeah, definitely in the 20s, it was way much more like teetering on the edge of some danger of that, knowing that shit was not okay. But yeah, I don't really do too much of that no more. But more recently, I would say, knowing how the shit was going to play out. And still but this is what my heart wants right now. Mm-hmm. And I know the reality for me. And so, fuck it.
I think we think now in this age, like we think further ahead, right? Mm-hmm. So back in the 20s, let's just say, talk about the audacity of love, right? You won't get back.
Oh, yeah.
So, but you're thinking about the right now that's going to bring me some type of what we think peace and resolve. Mm-hmm. So if I gotta show up and do whatever, then that's what I'm going to do. Not thinking about okay, so
I got something to say.
Well, could something pop off from that?
Yeah.
And then what and then the roller coaster or, the spiraling that goes on from there. Now, I think more about that. It was like, okay, so when do I want to get in the car? Do I want to do this? Do I want to do gas? Like, it's too many things that come into play that I'm like, okay, it's not. I'm not. Okay.
Is it worth it?
But back then,
it was so real back in the day. It was so real.
With all
because the audacity of you thinking that I'm a dummy out here.
Or you could play me like that.
Because I think that's my major pet peeve in the entire world is for you to think that you could ever fucking play me like that. That's my number one pet peeve. And number two is repeating myself. I don't like it.
I get it.
And so that's when the psychological warfare comes into play. Like, I'm not going to do the key your car or, bust your windows out. It won't be none of that. It's some shit that you can't sleep at night.
Or more so, it's not like, oh, you can just think that it's a random person. Like, no, you're going to know it was me.
Definitely. Because I'm coming in guns blazing.
You're going to know. You will know my full name.
Ooh, my face.
All of it.
Look, the security cameras, I'm like this.
Right. We play no games.
Yeah.
Because we've already thought this through, though.
Yes, all of that. And then it's the idiots who be like, oh, you didn't think that through. Who you think you're talking to? I definitely did. And I didn't do nothing illegal. I don't do nothing illegal.
But not even that. I'm willing to absorb any consequence from what I did. At this point, if I've gone that far,
then it is what it is.
Then I'm going to accept whatever comes from it. Good, bad, or indifferent.
I think I just try to alleviate the option for the law to be called.
Oh yeah, we
don't play them games.
We don't do that.
We don't do that. That's beneath us.
And I got somebody that I got to pick up from school. We got things to do. Like
so many things to do.
And that's another something. Like, my audacity now extends to her. Like,
automatically.
So it's a lot of stuff that you might be able to get away with me, right? Please don't have any audacity.
See, but then
please don't have any audacity with my seed.
Child. Oh my God!
Don't.
Because the mommy dear is real.
Everything is out the window. I fade to black. And shit gets real.
Yeah, we the ones we fight for our kids.
Shit gets real.
Like literally, like tell our kids, sit right here. I got this.
So it's good to see if you want to call it the progression of audacity at this point, because I had a lot of it, not say a lot of it to give. How can I say? There was a lot of things that I gave a fuck about, I cared about when I was younger. And as you get older and you mature, some of those things don't hold the same bearing and weight in your world, in your life, in your heart. To where now, like, I want love.
So do you think that that's the biggest factor too, right? It's your children are watching.
Absolutely. Because I know how I watch my mom. Mm-hmm. And I know who I am today has a lot to do with my mom. And you always want your children to be better than you.
Definitely.
So, absolutely. Absolutely. And there's such a fine line with, I want to say, rearing your kids, being friends, like doing all of that. I have a very open communication.
That's the key.
With my daughter. You know that I'm mom, but she'll probably tell anybody like I'm her best friend.
Yep.
All the same. So, yeah, we...
That's your bestie.
And I keep her close.
Do you think you may Do you ever think that you may keep her too close?
Probably.
For her or for you, or for both?
For both.
Mm-hmm.
For both. There's times where I'm like, you need to get out and explore and do all these things, but the world is not the world that we grew up in. So that's what makes it scary, to where I want to hold her so close. Somewhat unfair to her, because I don't want her to have these experiences like when I'm not around. And you always gonna have me to fall back on, but I'm not close. Like, you could touch me and know that I'm there.
And that could potentially be a hindrance for her.
Absolutely. Because you don't know how to maneuver.
Yeah.
Like, girl, how old were we when we were on buses and you think about the places.
A lot of fun.
The places that we were and we ended up in.
Like,
and
crazy, yeah. All of that.
I couldn't fathom that
freedom. No, because my kids have never taken the bus or walked home from school, like, did none of that. It's like, how do you go to school down the street and you still get dropped off and picked up?
What?
And I can attest to that. That has been a hindrance for my oldest child, who still doesn't know how to drive at 25. Right? It's like those things that you want to give your children, that you want to give them a better life than you had or expect, or experiences, than what you had to endure. But it's like, yes, what if those things are stunting their growth?
Yeah.
Or yours?
Yeah.
Because in everything that you just said about her, I can look at it like you holding her so close has stunted your putting yourself out there to live your full life. She damn near grown.
Yeah, but so my thing with that is
the time. It's a time. Are you doing it intentionally or
probably
subconsciously?
It's become my norm, right? But I desired to have her. Like, I wanted her, and I want to pour into. But she'll be my child forever, right? But I only have these formative years where she's with me before she wants to go, let's just say, to college, just be on her own, whatever. And I want to pour into her as much as I can. I only have a couple years before, I just said, that proverbial age is met. Shit, I still got, like, I'm still young-ish, to do whatever. If I had to do it all over again, would I modify things? Yes. Would I continue to do majority of what I did? Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah, because I think it's paid off so far, as I can see. It's paid off. That security that she will always have is a blessing. Yeah. I always wanted that for myself, and so therefore I always gave that to my children.
Right. Right.
And it sucks. The audacity of that. Let me get into that part a little bit. The audacity of me doing each and everything that I could to provide stability, unconditional love, support, friendship, a good role model to my children, to my child. And that not penetrate her soul, or seemingly so, because of maybe whatever stage she is right now. But based upon the information that I have right now, it's like, for that not to convey, the fullness of that not convey, it's, into her whole being. Like, the audacity. All that work that I've done to, like you said, pour into you. And then it's that part, right? Because I had my daughter 2 weeks before I turned 19, and it was me and her against the world. And I was just like, nobody's going to show up for me. I have to be everything for her. And I was everything for her. Like, it was literally times where I struggled to provide for her, and I had to make do. I had to do what I had to do. And I think that started me on the branching out and doing all these different things because of the hustle nature. I'm like, I gotta provide, right? And so not only just providing for her, but also being a good role model, because I grew up not knowing where my mother was. And so, but every single day, you know where your mama is. She's right there, or you're right here with her on this video shoot, on this such and such, or whatever I'm doing, you're here with me.
Right.
And so for that not be the truth, to not be the story that you tell yourself, the audacity.
100%.
and it's real. That's real. Like, that's real. And I have to live with that, right? It's like, sometimes no matter what you do as a parent, depending upon, because they're all different, all children are different. It's like they are going to perceive things the way that they perceive them. They're going to interact the way that they're going to interact. You just never know.
Because people's perceptions are their reality. So, however she perceived certain instances, and then I think it's more so than just that too. But however she received certain instances is what she formulated to become her reality. And of course, just like with human nature, you're bad. You hold on more to the bad than you do the good.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever little hiccups, whatever little things that she may experience has internalized to becoming a bigger something, a bigger picture.
And then some people are more comfortable with blaming others for their mishaps instead of being accountable for their own.
That takes a lot to be accountable.
Yeah.
And responsible.
But then it's like, I always say, what part did I play in it, right? It's like me maybe showing up too much and stopping you from hurts, or stopping you from receiving your karma for certain things that you did. And I knew it, but I didn't want you to go through that. Mm-hmm. So I kind of stopped it, or pulled strings, or did whatever and showed grace. But certain people that doesn't work for. It does the opposite of what it's not helping. It's hurting them. Because that child of mine needed to feel all of those repercussions from her actions.
But she was shielded from that.
I sheltered her from all of that, because it would have to be from my childhood.
Right. So you were trying to prevent her feeling what you felt, or things that you've gone through growing up, trying to keep her off that path.
Yeah, I didn't never want her to feel like she was alone out here, or she was going to lose it all, or, like she didn't have a safety blanket. But I think in each instance, the things that she would do next kind of got worse.
It's kind of like people when they say, like, you rob a bank or you go and you commit a crime, you will always continue to do that until you get caught or there's some consequence for your action. Unless you have this like aha moment, like, shit, okay, I done enough, I got away with enough, like, I'm good.
And everybody who knows and loves her is just like, she just has to hit rock bottom. And I'm like, oh, I don't want her to hit rock bottom. But then it's like, damn, like, she never hits rock bottom. It's always something that stops her from from that moment, and I know at this point at 25, she would have to hit rock bottom. I don't know what that even would look like. Mm-hmm. I have no idea, but I don't, because that's my baby. That's my first child. Like, I don't want her to go through that. But then it's like the other part of that is like, I know that that's what it's going to take for her to wake up and see how blessed, how talented, how gifted. Oh my God. Like, I have a lot of gifts and talents, but that little girl, she can do damn near everything and she's bomb. She's so beautiful. Like, girl. But it's like, you can't heal for someone else. Right. You can't make somebody see, no matter how much you hold them and be like, but you're the bomb. Like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because if she doesn't see that within herself, she's not going to do the work. That hurts. But there is a big part of it is like the audacity. And my brother told her too, like, I have watched my sister provide for you a life that she didn't even know she didn't have. You've told me that. Right. And my other friend told me that, like, who I've known since I was in 5th grade. Like, yeah, like, I had to grow up extremely fast, and not just for me, for my younger brothers. Like, provide safety and protection for them. Food. Home. Warmth. I had to provide that. That's crazy. And then it's like, I always like step outside of that when I say stuff like that. It's like, but then it's like being present with that. Like, yeah, you did. Like, yes. You really had to do that. And so it's like, of course you want those people to see those actions and embrace it and receive that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's like, you can have an easier life. I sacrificed so that you can have it easier than I had it. Can't you see?
And unfortunately, don't know what is going to be that aha moment for you to realize that.
Yeah. For all of my relationships, when you said that just now, it's like, I don't know what's going to be that aha moment for any of them to do better. And not for me, for you. Do better for you so that you can have a more full, robust life. Mm-hmm. And stop blaming everyone else for why. But then it's like, you don't want to do the work, but then you want to hold on to me.
Because they recognize who you are.
You're stressing me out.
Recognize who you are without the accountability for themselves and said actions. Right. So I want to keep doing what I want to do while I hold on to you. But with you going through all of your healing and your process, and now coming up or coming with these boundaries doesn't allow for that to continue to happen.
Right. And then they're like, yeah, scratching to survive. They're scratching us to be in it. But it's like, I can only do what I can do for you. And that's not much these days. And it's just like, I have to be okay with that, because a big part of me still wants to try to do your work.
But I think I see you starting to put yourself more to the forefront now.
Definitely that.
Which has been different from
and that comes from the catalyst of healing. The conscious, each moment by moment healing work. That is literally like, that's why. Because you can't help anyone until you can help yourself. And I don't really have the mindset of trying to help the conglomerate as I used to. Like, only in terms of me being a beacon of light or whatever, like, let my story speak for itself or whatever that may be, maybe that, but like me hands on trying to do your fucking work, I'm not there anymore. Because once you tiring.
I was just say, because once you come to the understanding of trying to heal for somebody else, will they still get that?
No.
So then
it doesn't matter.
So all the energy and time that you put into doing that goes for naught still. when I could have been doing that for myself.
Me, definitely that. And so that, what you said a minute ago too, it kind of pointed to, at my lowest points, because I've said this before, I was suicidal at 5. I don't really know where that came from other than me being molested or whatever. But, and then it might have just been the energy in the household and those family strongholds, because I come from a line of people who have either committed suicide or attempted to, right? And so I believe what has stopped me in those lowest moments have been like the audacity for me to think that that's an option when I have these children. That's what made me get up and wash my hair and get dressed and get my house together and choose life on several occasions. And so then there is when my mother attempted suicide and my brother had to break down that door, and his life now as a result of that. Right. And my mother's life now as a result of still being here. It's the audacity of that. And for her to say, I didn't choose for you to do that. I didn't ask you to help me stay alive. What?
Yeah. The lack thereof of responsibility. Then you feel like, I'm sure for him, like, the audacity of you to say that, knowing what I'm still dealing with to this day, subconsciously.
Yeah, because I've told her, like, I've tried to bring it to her awareness. Like, do you understand what that did to his psyche?
No.
Still.
No.
And she says that she does, but then I don't think she internalizes it in her heart. Like, and so to me, when you do that, when you internalize something with your heart and soul, then you change the behavior and show up a little bit different, right? And so therefore it's like, no, I don't think that she has done that. And instead now wants to still point fingers and be like, well, you know what I mean? It's like, somebody asked me the other day, like, what do you need or what do you gain from allowing your mom to still have access to you? And I don't know. Other than opportunity to know who I am and how I feel about certain things. Because at this point, when she's in the room, she's just a sounding board, because she can tell me anything. I can ask whatever questions. She can tell me whatever she wants to, and I'm going to internalize it and take the meat and spit out the bones, right? Because I don't really believe that I'm going to get the full truth. You know what I mean? Or whatever, something that's going to be groundbreakingly like, I don't believe that I'm going to get that. I've learned that a long time ago. But I think the difference to me is the fact that, and it might just be my heart, right? It's like, she's still here. You're still alive. You're still kicking. So that means you have the opportunity to change your behavior. You have the opportunity to see things differently, to look at things from somebody else's perspective. And I feel like I know my mother more than anyone else on this earth, because I've done the work to find out why she ticks, what makes her tick, why she does the things that she does. And so that, not to make an excuse for her, but I get it.
So you've done the work.
Yeah.
That she hasn't done.
Okay. But maybe that was more so for me. Because it's not just my mom. Because even when I was trying to write my story for those 17 years, it was so hard putting pen to paper, because when telling my story, I have to tell my parents' stories. And then in telling their stories, I have to tell their parents' stories, and then their parents' stories. And it's like a line of the same type of shit, right? So then it's like, that stopped me from doing it because, one, it hurts very bad. Two, I can't do anything to change that.
Right.
And then it's like, I know that it doesn't really matter, Zah. So now all you have to do is make sure that you change the behavior for you going forward in your child, your children, your offspring. Like the generational curses stop with me, because I choose to be present and do the work each day.
Mm-hmm.
Even if I burst into tears and have these moments of just like, I have to let it out, the purging, I choose to do that freely when I've never done that before. And I don't care if I have to do that in front of my children. And I think they embrace it now, because I've talked to them and I've let them understand, like, this is what mommy has to do to heal.
But it humanizes you.
Yes. Yes. Like, and I don't want you guys, because they do it. They have done it. They have tried to hold on to stuff. And I'm like, no, you have to let that out. You cannot take that into your 20s, 30s, 40s. Whatever it is. And you can talk to me about anything. I got very tough skin. Like, tell me whatever. If I'm lacking, if I'm doing too much, like whatever, like, let me know. Like, what kind of support do you need to be the best you that you can be? Like, when I drop them off in the morning, I'm like, you make sure you're a scholar and a friend. You know what I mean? Like, always learning and being the best you that you could possibly be.
Mm-hmm.
Show up, but be authentic in who you show up to be each and every day, whatever that looks like, because this is your life.
Right. Very true.
And don't try to put yourself in a box to fit somebody else's idea or ideal of you.
I love that. I love that. Do you ever think, going back to you and your mom, has she ever apologized to you about?
Not sincerely. Because it's the apologies are, well, I'm sorry that I wasn't I didn't know any better, so I couldn't do any better. Or I'm sorry that I wasn't what you guys needed, because that's not what I saw when you know what I mean? It's like always goes back to her. And I've more consciously these days tried to bring her back, like turn her back to, like, try not to do that. Try not to make it about you. To be present in the moment of your children speaking to you. Listen with your heart. Take it in. It's not going to feel good, because those are your choices that you made that affected your children.
But the defense comes up
every time. And so, and I get why, but there's no healing in that. If you can't embrace the things that you've done, whether it's subconsciously or consciously, like intentionally or not, like, if you can't embrace that and apologize sincerely and then change your behavior,
right?
What are you really asking of people? Because that's what I was going to say earlier. It's like, I know that my mother wants the love of her children and grandchildren. She wants to be able to be around us and experience us in our fullness, because we are the shit. Like, we are vibes. Like, we have fun. We hugging and kissing and playing, and we doing all of that, and that's not what I grew up with.
Right.
So I see her sitting in that chair over there and just watching, and tears coming out of her eyes. She might not say anything, but I know that she wants to be a part of it. But she doesn't want to do the work in order to be welcomed. Like, she's welcomed in the room,
right?
But she's not welcome in the camaraderie, because there's no change behavior. There's no lessons learned.
Right.
So maybe it's just for optics or face value now that I allow her in the room. But I feel responsible in because she's still here, and there's so many of my loved ones who don't have their mothers or fathers or sisters or brothers or the people that are closest to them, right? They don't have that. And so maybe that's my way of
trying to maintain that.
Yeah, while you're still here.
I can understand that. But what's the quality of experience? Like,
I don't know. Maybe my daughter will grow up and she'll be like, I remember my grandma sitting there laughing
around.
with us.
Okay, yeah.
And it was just chill.
Because
there was no yelling and screaming and arguing and all of that. Because that was my childhood.
Mm-hmm.
So, or beatings, right? So, or nothing, no absence, you know? So maybe my children will grow up with some form of positive
connotation
towards her.
Yeah.
Because that's been a fear for me, for my children to shut her out and shut her down because they've seen the manic, suicidal. They've seen that, right? And then I have to let them be okay with expressing how those situations make them feel.
Mm-hmm. Yes, because they too have feelings.
Absolutely.
And process it as such.
Because my mother has done stuff like act out and then be shut out and then show up where she was uninvited and then tell the kids, like, guilt them into come here, give me a hug and a kiss, and then cling onto them and weep in their arms. And they're like little babies. That's not fair.
Yeah, it's manipulative.
Very manipulative. And my son, who was maybe 10 at the time, got in the car and immediately said, I don't feel like that was fair for her to do that to me.
Mm. Wow.
So that is a representative of the work that I have done with my child, right? Mm-hmm. No, it wasn't fair. And I'm going to talk to her about that so that she doesn't do that again.
Right. But then here comes boundaries, because then I may even make it to where you don't have that opportunity to do that again.
And I have so many times.
So
my mother has been blocked for a lot of these years, right? And so if and when I choose to unblock her, it's for a reason, right? But she's not blocked right now, but I had to turn off those notifications because when I leave leave it too open, she'll blow me up. Like all day you're calling for nothing. You're calling, leaving the voicemails until it stops you, and then you call back and continue on. Yeah. Like nobody can do that to me. Right? No. But then, so in kind of piggybacking on the conversation, which I talked about on the other podcast too, it's like, this is the one who held me and let me weep in her arms. And that was very groundbreaking for me, because in that moment, I realized that I was not able to do that my whole childhood. And so in that, it's like everything is like kickstarting another piece of information that comes up, or something else that I have to heal from, or, not even just heal from. I have to let it process. Right. So whatever and however that chooses to show up. Right. So these last couple of weeks have been like, it's been constant. Yeah.
Feel, deal, heal.
And so, so I had to tell her the other day, like, in doing my healing work and, self-preservation and all of that, there's things that are coming to surface that I have to process and deal with. And I cannot do this with you right now. So I'm not going to engage you. Like, I'm not. It didn't stop her. But then I did pose the question, like, I have been held. The question has been held in the balance of, did you ever even like me?
Oof. Yeah. That was huge.
And her answer was, that's nothing but the devil's lie. Because if anything, I was better to you than I was to anyone else.
Mm-hmm. That says a lot.
Which is a lie. But the fact that you formed your fingers to say that. So then an hour later, because, okay, and then she brings this one up too all the time, like, that's the devil's lie. I did more for you than all the other ones. And starting with the fact that I had surgery to reattach my tubes after I had them severed in order to give birth to you.
That has nothing to do with me.
No. Or the treatment that I had.
That has nothing.
So then an hour later, I got another message saying, well, maybe it's because, you're going to love this one. Maybe it's because when I gave birth to you, your father came into the delivery room and said, what am I going to do with the girl? So I took that as, okay, now you're trying to put it on someone else. Like, you want me to have some negative feelings towards my father instead of the reality of what I should have towards you because of your treatment. My father wasn't there. And although she used to force me on my father, I didn't really I didn't feel genuine with that. So I was like, why are you forcing me over there? Right. But he never treated me bad, ever at all. But you're trying to take the heat off of you and put it on someone else. But then are you admitting now that you mistreated me because he didn't want a daughter?
Because you're only supporting my question.
Right.
With all this information, you haven't answered it, but you're supporting it. You're supporting my theory. So you're still left without an answer.
Right. Which I never thought I was going to get an answer. And it doesn't matter, right? Because it is what it is. I have that feeling based upon the patterns. The same could be said for my sister. Like, I don't know what you hated me for. I was really, really sweet. Really kind. But I have my idea of why. But then it's like, that's not none of my business. But it's like, why? Right? And so my therapist had me write out a cognitive processing therapy report or essay or whatever, detailing certain hurts, certain traumatic experiences or events that happened, big ones, and explain how they made me feel. Did they have a effect on how I see the world, how I view relationships, all of these things. So it's all based upon these conversations that you and I had together, right? And the last question was, why do you think that these things happen to you?
Right. Because I remember saying, like, how do you answer that? Did you answer?
No, because I didn't even finish the paper because I got a couple of events in, and so now, because when I've said this before, when I recall things or bring them to surface, they are like a whole movie with it. Like, it's like real, not even like a movie. It's like a reality, like astral traveled to that moment with those feelings, with those everythings in live full color. And so in writing that, it made these traumatic things come right back to reality. And then it was just like, because I've always taken myself out of the equation for survival. I've always done that, right? So then in order to now be able to just like sit with it is big. And so overall, it makes me sad that anybody, of course, had to go through those things. But really, it's sad that had to happen to me. And then I don't know. What was your first impression of me?
Let me see. You were this introverted, can't say quiet, but you just off of first impression, you were just like this introverted little girl who, upon knowing you, fun, actually an extrovert around who you feel safe and comfortable around. Just like loving, but upon first glance, you just like, I'm quiet. I got to get to where I got to get to. If we're gonna have fun, okay, come on, we get to have fun. But it takes a while for you to get there. But hindsight being 2020, it was like all protective measures.
Mm-hmm. So when I think about that little girl, she was so beautiful. Like, she was so beautiful. My mom sent me a picture. I can't wait to show you. And I never saw that picture before. And I was like Winton's age.
Okay.
But the presence, the maturity, I said I wasn't going to cry.
Yeah.
But so when I take myself out of it, and I'm like, you know, when you witness little kids or whatever, it's like, you know which ones you'll deal with and which ones you wouldn't. Nobody would be like, I don't want to deal with that little girl. Like, I was very sweet and kind and loving and just wanted to help. I just wanted to be. I just wanted to have fun, right? So when I think about why those things happened to me, I don't fucking know. Because I didn't do anything to antagonize anyone. I wasn't bad. I wasn't like poke the bear. I wasn't any of those things. I just wanted to be loved and accepted. And I wanted a childhood.
Right. Yeah. You didn't have that.
I was a grown woman in that little child's body. Not that I wanted to be that. I was. And so it's so crazy because I keep going back to that picture and just looking and just staring at that girl. And then even Winton was sitting there looking with me and she was like, what? Like, and then she was like tripping off of it. Like, I'm in awe, right? And then when I'm driving her to school, she was like, Mom, she's looking out the window. She's like, Mom, you know, I keep thinking about that picture of you.
What did she think about it?
She's just like, that's you. Like, that's you. Like, that's you. And when I sent it to Zealand, it was just like his twin. It's my twin. And like, I see so much of him in me. But I just pray that there's no torture that he's holding on to. You know?
Yeah. Their life experience will have them with their own situations, so you don't want any of what you have dealt with to be something that they're processing too. Because life, especially these young kids. So that's wild.
I can't wait to show you that picture. But it's just like, it's crazy to me.
That's interesting.
It's a trip to get in touch with that little girl again. And give her permission to feel. Give her permission to, feel. Because I think I was just numb for so long. And just going through the motions of life. And just like trying to show up for myself the best way I could. And make everything easier for everybody else.
Well, that's just wild, the mentality that you had at a young age. to be thinking about that.
Yeah.
Because nobody's thinking about that.
Yeah.
The mom, the adult that you've had to be. What will be interesting is if you sit with that picture and allow yourself to feel that picture.
That's what I think I've been trying to do. I go back to it every day. I just stare at it. I'm like, wow.
Ooh-wee. The emotions that will erupt from that.
Because when I wrote my book, and there's 2 pictures in that book, and one is when I was 2 and one when I was 4, and the difference in the eyes, the difference, right? The difference of those had me baffled. But this one, I don't know. It's crazy. It's like, girl, what you had to go through, girl.
Do you look mature? Do you
very
look
freaky mature, like me, like right now? I look like Zod now, and I'm holding some little girl. Yeah, I don't know who that little girl is, but I'm just like, girl. And so I think that's why it's so noteworthy too, that in my last relationship was my most freest, my most being a kid, just be like in every way, like that freedom, that exhale,
right?
Like that. I only had that with him. And so that's probably why it's hard to let that go. It's because it's like there has to be purpose in that. And none of the feelings have changed. You know what I mean? Like nothing has changed, but it's just like there's so much purpose in that. Like for both of us. And because he said that too, it's like so much of so that's a whole nother thing, right? It's like having to grow up too fast and being exposed to things that you had no business being exposed to, and how you just kept it to yourself and held on to that, packed it down, but showed up a little bit more mature. And take things, or just,
I think the exposure of things at too early of an age, you don't know how to process it. With maturity, with wisdom to properly understand that. So if you are already processing something and you weren't afforded the opportunity, let's just say, of childhood. So now fast forward, you're in this relationship and it's so freeing. And it feels so good. And I can do these things that I didn't have the opportunity to do, or really like engulf myself. Did I skate? Yeah. Was I skating and I was just free and I wasn't
just like
thinking about nothing, and no. So is this what I want to hold on to? Yes. Yeah. But will I hold on to it with mistreatment? Hell no.
Not at all.
And I think that goes into relationships with your mom, with your siblings. Like, I've learned better. I know how to properly process it now.
Yeah.
So, no, you don't have the audacity to come into my space without me allowing you into my space, into my mental, into my heart. Because I know better.
Yeah, I do. I know better, and I am not going to accept.
And I want better, and I won't accept anything less than
the whole all-encompassing package. And I will wait for that to show up for me,
because I'm going to minimize your audacity to do shit to me.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Yes.
Right?
So that comes with maturity. The level of audacity that you allow in your life will be minimized upon maturing and growing and processing all of those things from our past.
Yes. That's a full
That's
circle.
a word.
I love it.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us for another episode of The Goddess Honest Truth. Like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. Tell us what you want to hear about next. We are so grateful for love. We are so grateful for life. And we are still grateful for that bullshit.
Hey, don't try it.
Peace.